All right. Welcome to the information session for MS degree in EE department, MSEE program. We have this kind of information session in the beginning of each semester because this is very important information for your success during the MSEE program. I'm Professor Sean Kwon, graduate advisor. And you have all these contact points depending on your issues. At the side of Graduate Student Success Center, we have COE coordinator, Dr. Faik Reich. Again, I'm Sean Kwon. And we have so far interim department chair, Professor Madhu Gupta. We have great staffs. First one is administrative support coordinator, Ms. Gabriela Bortoluzzi. And the second one is administrative support assistant, Ms. Gina Decker. They are taking care of our MSE students in a great way. After this information session, I will provide the video recording along with this material to all the MSEE students. So you don't need to write down some information included in these slides. Here are sort of COE College of Engineering resources, especially for library information. Yes, you can refer to this, but the best way to search in the Google with CSULB library. So I will also explain how to search some appropriate contact point or to have some precious information depending on your issues. Let me first explain the advising period of myself, graduate advisor. Graduate advising is available during the regular semesters, that is fall and spring semesters. On the other hand, for summer and winter, it is out of the service period of graduate advisor. However, you can contact EE department, and if there is some urgent thing requiring some signature of graduate advisor, department chair can sign instead of graduate advisor during my out of service period following the university and college policy. I highly encourage you to finish some work during the regular semesters, fall and spring semesters. That will be the best way, but if it is not possible, you can use your summertime or winter time. But there might be some delay because it is basically out of service period of myself. So if you send emails to myself during the summer or winter, you need to resend the email when graduate advising resumes in the regular semesters, that is fall and spring semesters. Again, I highly encourage you to move forward following the university schedule, not your own schedule, although we are respecting your schedules. So regarding university schedule, the main schedule will be included in the regular semesters, again, fall and spring semesters. Next slide explains the 5 mandatory classes. But before that, I would like to emphasize this slide that is about academic warning. Previously, we call it probation. So academic warning means the student's GPA is not higher than or equal to 3.0. So at each semester, we need to maintain the GPA equal to or higher than 3.0 to avoid this situation, academic warning or probation. If not, you will confront academic warning or probation situation, and there will be several constraints on your academic work or activities. For instance, advanced to candidacy, ATC, it requires your GPA equal to or higher than 3.0. So if you are in the situation of academic warning or probation, your ATC form, advanced to candidacy form, will not be approved by the department. In fact, by the enrollment university system itself. So I would like to emphasize the importance of your academic endeavor to avoid the situation of academic warning or probation. Any questions about academic warning? In my observation, usually it happens in your first semester or second semester. The reason is the student who has the first semester may not have enough information about some class load or some reputation of the class. So before enrolling several classes, you need to check the class load of each classes based on some conversation with other students or using some other resources. So if this for 2022 is your first semester, I highly encourage you to be very careful to not to confront this academic warning situation. That is, your GPA need to be equal to or higher than 3.0. 3.0 is grade B basically, right? And our MSE program has many great students with big potential and capability. So getting B may not be very difficult if you work hard, study hard. On the other hand, getting A may be a bit difficult because it is competitive, and the grading is based on relative evaluation. That is, if you have one C in a semester, you need to have one A to have 3.0 GPA in that semester. And it may be very difficult to get 1A for some classes. So try your best to avoid getting C. And if you expect that your current state is not very good, I encourage you to contact your instructor and discuss with him or her. And you can ask your expected grade maybe after midterm exam or between midterm exam and final exam. And you can ask any kind of additional work or any strategy to have at least the grade B or A. So that is my recommendation. So please check your state if your score is not very, very high. Any question again about academic warning, previously called probation? Okay, good. If so, let's go back to slide 5. It is important information, especially for the new MSEE student. Following the executive order from the Chancellor's office, we have these 5 mandatory classes, regardless of your emphasis or tracks. 508 and 511. These two have been the mandatory classes for a long time, maybe 10 years or 20 years, because these two are regarded as some fundamental background knowledge all over the emphasis or tracks. On the other hand, following the executive order, we decided these three mandatory classes, one for each emphasis or track. EE 588, that is for communications, networking, and DSP track. EE 531, it is electronics and digital systems course. And EE 554, power systems and application, is for the track of power and control systems. So all of you need to take these 5 classes, and my recommendation is to try your best to enroll these classes as early as possible. Usually, these classes will be open every 2 semesters or every year, but depending on the situation of our enrollment and student state, sometimes department try opening some classes twice a year, like every semester. The way for you to check whether these classes are open in the next semester or not is to contact the E department. And another way is to check our previous course schedule. If you search CSULB MSEE course schedule for spring 2022, you can check which classes were open among those 5. And in general, you can expect that those classes will be open in next spring semester, spring 2023. But again, some classes are open per the request of the student or the situation of the enrollment. So the best way to check with E department for the class schedule and plan for the next semester. These 5 are the mandatory classes, and if you finish these 5 classes, you can have 15 units. On the other hand, the requirement of completing MSE program is taking 30 units in addition to these 15 units. For the remaining 15 units, you can just choose any kind of EE 500 level classes or EE 698, that is a master thesis class with 6 units in total. So I will explain further about master thesis route and comprehensive exam route. You can choose one of the 2 routes, comprehensive exam route or thesis route. In case of comprehensive exam, comp exam route, you need to take 5 additional classes to satisfy these 15 units. And after that, finally, students need to take the comprehensive exam to pass the MSEE program. On the other hand, if you choose thesis route, MS thesis route, you need to take not 5, but 3 classes. And for the remaining 2 classes, like 6 units, the student need to take MS thesis class, which is EE 698. It requires some discussion with your thesis advisor, not graduate advisor. Do you have any questions so far, especially for these mandatory classes and the option between the 2, comprehensive exam and this MS thesis route?
I have a question.
Yes, Wyatt.
Do you have to complete all the mandatory classes before you can take the comprehensive exam?
Yes, that is a great question, Ryan. Thank you for your question. Yes, you need to complete those 5 mandatory classes before a comprehensive exam, or you can, at least you need to take all those classes before or in the same semester when you take the comprehensive exam. But comprehensive exam is based on those 5, the content from in those 5 classes. So I highly encourage you to take those 5 classes, finish these 5 classes before the semester when you take the comprehensive exam. So let me explain further about comprehensive exam first. For comprehensive exam, you will have 5 subjects. For the fair evaluation, the 5 classes must be these: EE 508, 511, 588, 531, and 554. If you join CSULB before fall 2019, for instance, fall 2018, spring 2018, in that case, in your comprehensive exam, these 2 are the mandatory subjects, and the 4 other 3 subjects you can choose in your emphasis in general. Because before fall 2019, we didn't have 5 mandatory classes, but we had 2 mandatory classes, 508 and 511. On the other hand, again, before fall 2019, students had to take other classes in the track of their emphasis. So I will show you those classes in the next several slides. But I think, as I checked, almost of you joined at CSULB MSE program after or in fall 2019. In that case, your subject will be those 5 mandatory classes for your comprehensive exam. Now, let me explain a little bit about thesis route. Basically, I highly encourage you to choose this thesis route because it is good for you to have some academic record of research. In case of thesis route, still need to enroll EE 698, and it requires 6 units of EE 698. In general, still need to take EE 698 twice. For 1 semester, you can enroll this for 3 units, and you can enroll again EE 698 in the next semester with another 3 units. So that is a general process. And if you choose a thesis route, I expect also observed that students may need to have 1 more semester or sometimes 2 more semesters because it requires more work, but it deserves it. So if you can manage your time, I encourage choosing this MS thesis route because you can have some research record in your CV or resume. Also, hopefully, you can have some publications like conference or journal publications. Furthermore, it is a good opportunity to build up good relation with your research or thesis advisor. Through that, even after your graduation, if you want, you may continue some research with EE faculty members. So in several aspects, using thesis route provides some advantage, but it also requires some more semester, like one more semester in general, or sometimes 2 more semesters. It depends on the achievement of your research during this thesis research route through EE 698 under the advising of your thesis advisor. Any question about competency exam and MS thesis or mandatory classes?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, Eric, can you turn up your volume? Eric, I cannot hear you.
Is that better?
Yeah, now I can hear you well.
Great. In terms of a thesis advisor, is that sort of provided in EE 698, or do you get to choose your thesis advisor? Or have to choose one?
Yeah, that is just a great question, Eric. Thank you for the question for all the MSEE student. Student need to contact any potential future MS thesis advisor, maybe through your classes or independently. And you need to discuss with your future thesis advisor. And if he or she agree with working with you, you can ask department office to issue the permission of your enrolling EE 698 under the advising of that future thesis advisor. So if you check, there are several EE 698 sections. For instance, EE 698 section 1, section 2, section 3, etc. Each section is assigned to different thesis advisor. So before asking the permission of enrolling EE 698 to the department, you need to discuss with your potential thesis advisor, and if he or she approve or agree with your plan for that MS thesis, yes, you can ask department. So when you send an email to the department office, you can CC to your potential thesis advisor. I will explain advanced candidacy later, but EE 698 requires the approval of ATC, advanced to candidacy. Basically, advanced to candidacy is your study plan to finish your master's program. And I will explain further about the requirement of ATC in the later slide. So MS thesis route requires enrolling EE 698 for acquiring 6 units in total. And enrolling EE 698 requires, in turn, the approval of ATC. So that is the reason why I emphasize the importance of moving forward step by step, following the guideline and the procedure. Any other question? By the way, Eric, did I answer for your question?
Yes, you did. And for those thesis advisors that are going to be in each of those sections, those are the only advisors we can ask, or is an advisor just any professor that we might want?
Now you have seen several sections in EE 698, but these are not all about MS thesis advisors. So if you contact another thesis advisor, and if you and future thesis advisor agree with working together for your MS thesis, you can ask department to open new EE 698 section that is assigned to your potential or future thesis advisor. So for all full-time faculty, they can be the thesis advisor if some students want to work with him or her.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your following question. It is also helpful for all the students. Any other question regarding this slide? If not, let us move to the next slide. I emphasized academic warning or probation. So please keep it in mind that we need to try our best to maintain our GPA equal to or greater than 3.0. For the next 4 slides, I want you to provide some information about related classes. In fact, before fall 2019, we had 2 mandatory classes. Now, again, we have 5 mandatory classes, right? However, at the time, before fall 2019, in addition to these 2 mandatory classes, students needed to take all these classes in their emphasis. For instance, if your track is power and control system, students needed to take these 2 mandatory classes, and students needed to take these 4 mandatory classes in power and control emphasis. So in some sense, we reduced the number of mandatory classes from 6 to 5. The reason why I include this slide is you can see which classes are related to which emphasis, right? For instance, if your track is biomedical engineering or communication systems networking, here you can see that these four are closely related classes to this emphasis, communication network or DSP. Also, you can check other related classes. So when you decide your classes, in addition to 5 mandatory classes, you can refer to these 4 slides where there will be the description about related classes. Yeah, another example is the emphasis in electronics and digital systems. Again, these 2 are mandatory for everybody before or after fall 2019. And we have common 3 other mandatory classes if you join in or after fall 2019. And you can check some related classes to the electronics and digital systems. There is some overlap between each emphasis, of course. Please notice that all these classes are not open every year or every semester. So I encourage you to check the previous class schedules. For instance, spring 2022, fall 2021, spring 2021, etc. And you can figure out which classes have been open recently and which classes will be open in which semesters, basically. However, the best information is obtained by contacting the E department office, especially for the class schedule for the next semester. It is a frequently asked question that which classes are related to which emphasis. So you can refer to these 3-4 slides to have the answer for that. So I think you are considering some emphasis or track, whether it is your final emphasis or not. If so, please refer to these 4 slides, and you can have some sense about related or helpful classes for your emphasis. Any questions so far? Good. So as I explained, again, let me emphasize again, we have 5 mandatory classes, especially if you joined in or after fall 2019. Almost of you joined in or after fall 2019. These 5 are mandatory classes, and the 3 classes represent different emphasis or tracks. For instance, 554 is representing power and control systems. 531 represents electronics and digital systems. 588 represents communication, networking, and the DSP. So in some sense, we are pursuing some broad knowledge. Like if your track is power, 554 will be closely related mandatory class to your emphasis. On the other hand, 588 and 531 will be classes in other emphasis. But I want to mention that these 3 classes provide you with great background knowledge about broad tracks in electrical engineering, and I expect that it will be helpful in your future. At some moment, we need to apply our skills, our background knowledge for some other application or use cases, and it is frequently happening in the industry or in the academia. So in some sense, we are providing some more flexibility, that is between interdisciplinary study and focused or concentrated study, because except these 5 classes, for other 5 classes, students have the freedom to choose that regardless of their emphasis or tracks. If you want to have some broad knowledge, for instance, electronic circuit design, embedded system, for communications, you can take some classes in electronics, embedded system, and communications, maybe DSP, etc. On the other hand, if you have been working in the company and it is very straightforward for your interest and your future work, you may focus your effort on several classes in one emphasis, like DSP, power, electronics, for instance. Let us move to the next slide. It is also related to the questions from Eric. This slide shows the professors in our EE department, depending on your emphasis. Biomedical, power and control, electronics and digital system, communication, networking, and DSP. If you are interested in pursuing MS thesis research, you can contact any professors in this slide, and you can discuss with him or her about your future MS thesis research. If she or he agrees with your MS thesis research advising, you can ask EE department office to open EE 698 section assigned to each professor or your thesis advisor. Any questions so far? All right. Next, this slide is a sort of good news for our international students. Before, we had this graduation writing assessment requirement, GWAR, which requires taking some exams, test exams, and depending on that test scores, students needed to take some other class or classes. However, in this summer, I have just received the announcement that GWAR, graduation writing assessment requirement, is exempt, removed. So it is not required anymore. So from this semester on, student doesn't need to take that GWAR exam, testing exam, or student doesn't need to take that related classes, because your ATC, advanced candidacy approval, or your graduation approval will not require this GWAR. So that is just sort of good news to reduce the load of our students. Let us talk about ATC, advancement to candidacy or advanced to candidacy. This is not the guarantee of your graduation, but this is the description of your study plan, like coursework during your master's program. To have the approval of this ATC, we need to satisfy those 4 requirements. Again, completion of GWAR requirement, like a test or taking some related classes, we don't need to do that anymore from this semester on. And ATC requires basically this: taking 8 units and completion of any deficiency requirement. Deficiency classes mean some prerequisite classes to successfully follow the classes in the master's program. When you received your admission letter, the admission letter described your deficiency classes. If you need to take some class, that they are usually EE 300 level classes, but it includes also one 400 level class. So if you have your admission letter describing your deficiency classes, you need to finish that within 2 regular semesters, because we regard them as essential background knowledge to follow any other graduate classes. So when you submit your ATC, advancement to candidacy form, I encourage you to check those 4 requirements. Now, again, we don't need to check this GWAR test results or this completion of GWAR basically. And GPA should be equal to or greater than 3.0. That means students should not be in the academic warning or probation situation. If the student is in the probation, student first need to increase the GPA equal to or greater than 3.0. Then a student can apply advanced to candidacy form for the approval. And when you submit ATC form, also in the form itself, you can see the option there. You need to select your culminating experience. Culminating experience means those two different routes, comprehensive exam options or MS thesis options. So it is the time to decide your culminating experience or your route, comp exam or MS thesis. Also, you need to write down your concentration, that is emphasis. Sometimes some students describe the concentration is machine learning, the concentration is robotics. That is not correct description, because we have four concentrations. These four. So when you submit your ATC form, please clearly describe your emphasis among those four: biomedical, communication network, DSP, power and control, or electronics and digital systems. If you input some other emphasis, department office will ask you to correct that, and you will have some delay for this ATC submission and approval. I explained that ATC, and is there any question about ATC? All right, ATC is one of the important milestones during the MSEE program. So try your best to complete 18 units, and after completing 18 units, not during the taking 18 units in total, you can contact the E-Department office to have some guideline about submitting ATC form. Also, please make sure that your GPA should be equal to or greater than 3.0. Next one is curricular practical training, so-called CPT, and the related class. This is to support the training of our international students, like summer internship or some internship in the regular semesters. CPT requires at least 1 academic year of enrollment with F1 visa status. Also, it requires advanced to candidacy completed. Going back to the previous slide, ATC requires 18 units, completion of 18 units. So if you want to perform the summer research, summer internship, basically you need to have ATC and you need to have a completion of 18 units in general. Yeah, the status of good academic standing, that is, you should not pause your master's program for 1 semester or 2 semester, except some medical leave or something. If you pause, that is, if you don't register any class in 1 semester, this is the case of discontinuity of your MSE program, and you need to reapply to the program in the next semester or in the semester when you resume your study in our MSEE program. Another one about good academic standing is, again, academic warning or probation. So if you have, we should have, again, a GPA equal to or greater than 3.0 to maintain good academic standing. For the student who will do summer internship or internship during the regular semesters, student need to contact International Student Office, so-called ISS, and you can have some request form about the CPT along with enrolling engineering 691. The rationale is this one. CPT is a sort of training sequence. During your summer internship, you need to enroll 1 unit of this engineering 691, and any full-time professor can be your supervisor, usually owing to the time constraint or some preference. Graded advisor myself usually is your supervisor for this engineering 691, but yeah, you can contact any other full-time COE professor for supervising your CPT training. Of course, you can perform basically you will perform your internship in summer, in spring, or fall. Any question about the CPT? This is a good opportunity for you to have some industry experience, especially for international student. For domestic student, you don't need to submit this CPT form, and you don't need to enroll engineering 691 for instance, your summer internship, or for your internship during the fall and spring semesters. All right, any questions so far? We will have also enough time for question and answer and discussions. So let me just move forward for the next 4 more slides. 5 more. Okay, I do like to emphasize these two. True or false? First one, a student takes courses arbitrarily and then comes to the advisor saying that he or she will graduate in that semester. Answer is no. We have some guideline. We have mandatory classes. Also, we need to take EE 500 level classes, or if you select the track of the route of master thesis, you need to take 6 units of EE 698. Second one, every course must be pre-approved and every step must be completed before approaching the advisor requesting graduation. The answer is yes. There is a ATC, advanced to candidacy. Before that, you need to complete 18 units. And we need to satisfy 5 mandatory classes. Regarding GUAR, we don't need to satisfy GUAR requirement anymore. Okay, this is a sort of important note. In the next slide, I think I explained that. Yes, basically you still need to take 10 graduate classes and 3 units per each class, in total 30 units. It requires completing 5 mandatory classes and 5 more EE 500 level classes. On the other hand, the department allows you're taking at most 2 EE 400 level classes. 400 level is usually this is for like last year undergrad student or senior student, but these classes are also very advanced classes. and it also requires, it provides you with a helpful or useful background knowledge for you to successfully follow graded classes. So 2 EE 400 level classes are allowed for you to satisfy total 30 units for your master's program. And when you enroll EE 400 level classes, please send an email to EE department to ask the permission of enrolling that class and CC that email to me. So in every semester, I explained that this document automatically allow your enrolling any EE 400 level classes. The reason is we have 5 mandatory classes, and those classes are spread out over the emphasis tracks. To successfully follow those classes, you may need to take some 400 level classes, or if maybe you may be interested in some 400 level classes in your emphasis. Any questions so far? All right. So I mentioned that MSE students can take at most 2 EE 400 level classes. However, these 2 classes are not included. These 2 are not approved. EE 490 and EE 405, because these are special problems and special topics classes. And the main objective of allowing you to take EE 400 level classes is that you can have some helpful background knowledge to successfully follow graded classes. On the other hand, 490 and 405, the 2 are not providing some general background knowledge, but some special knowledge with the topic or problems. So it is the reason why EE 490 or 405 will not be included in your 30 units of the requirement. Yes, so to summarize the roadmap or coursework in MSEE program, again, an important milestone is this advancement to candidacy or advance to candidacy. To have the approval of this ATC submission, we need to satisfy this one, 18 units of graded course completion. That is basically 6 classes. If you take 3 classes in one semester and another 3 classes in the next semester, you will complete 6 classes, equivalently 18 units. And after that, you can, right after that, I encourage you to contact the E department office to submit ATC, advancement to candidacy form, such that you can move forward with that milestone. Any questions so far? All right. And for the, in addition to 5 mandatory classes, you need to take another 5 classes in EE department, usually EE 500 level classes. So do you have any question? Okay.
Yeah, I have a question. Sorry, I couldn't hit the mute button.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I'm noticing that it says the section to enroll in EE 698, the thesis is after the advancement to candidacy. So could you technically not enroll in that before the ATC is submitted?
Yeah, that is the guideline that I received from the College of Engineering. Also, yes, so you need to finish 18 units first, and you need to apply or submit ATC form, advancement to candidacy form. And with that approval, you can enroll EE 698. So for instance, if you finish 18 units, and if you want to begin EE 698 MS thesis in that semester, you can do these two things together, applying for advanced to candidacy and waiting for the approval of that ATC. Right after that, you can enroll the class 698. But the best way is you can, right after completing 18 units, you can apply ATC. Then you still have 12 units, right? So in your third semester, you may want to enroll EE 698, or you may want to enroll EE 698 in your last fourth semester and fifth semester. It depends on your MSEE plan itself.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So ATC is not guaranteeing your graduation, but ATC is the description of your study plan based on you're completing 18 units and your route, comprehensive exam route or MS thesis route. Okay, again, let me emphasize one more time about the importance of maintaining your GPA equal to or greater than 3.0. Academic warning, previously called probation, will limit your, for instance, your ATC approval, your enrolling EE 698, etc. So let us be very careful not to confront this situation, academic warning or probation. Finally, if you choose comprehensive exam route, you need to take the comp exam in your last semester, or some students took this exam before the last semester. For fall and spring semesters, the date is fixed regardless of any other schedule. So if you are working as a full-time employee in the company, please be careful to not to make any schedule on those days. We have maintained these dates for the past at least 5 years, but more than that, of course. So for fall semester, the comp exam date is always first Friday of October. That will be sometimes October 1st, sometimes October 7th. In case of this year, first Friday of October is October 7th. On the other hand, regarding the spring semester, the comp exam date is always first Friday of March. So please keep it in mind if you have a plan to choose comprehensive exam route, and you need to not schedule any other plans on those days. This is a bit, sensitive issues, and it is very important exam for your completing MSE program. So we have not allowed any adjustment of changing the exam date. It must be always first Friday of October for fall semester, and the first Friday of March for spring semester.
Professor Kwon,
Yes, Tomek,
what's the consequence of failing that exam? Can one retake it?
say it again, Tomek.
Can someone retake the exam if they failed the first time around?
Comprehensive content or concern.
Yeah, if someone fails the exam, can you retake it?
Yeah, that is also a great question, Tomek. Thank you for the question for all the students. Yes, student can take comprehensive exam twice at most. So if some student fail in comprehensive exam, the student can retry taking the exam in the next semester. But after that, that is twice is the maximum number of trial. For instance, if students fail in comprehensive exam twice, there is no way to finish your MSE program. So please be careful when you decide your complete exam semester. It is another reason why I recommend you to first complete 5 mandatory classes before taking the comprehensive exam. You can have good contact with instructors who are teaching 5 mandatory classes, even though it is not allowed to provide some hints about or some information about comprehensive exam. You can have some hint or some sense about the question which will be in the comprehensive exam. So you have 5 mandatory classes, and for each class, the instructor will provide 2 questions. For instance, 508, you can see 2 questions, and students need to choose only one, like question 1 or question 2, and provide a solution or answer for that selected question by students. So if students try 2 questions and does not clearly indicate the selection between question 1 and question 2, usually we automatically select focus on question 1, and your answer for question 2 will be ignored. So it is important to clearly indicate your selection, question 1 or question 2 for each subject. And definitely, I think the question will be from your lectures or any content in your lecture, and the focus will be on the important part in each class, each mandatory class. All right, I think I have covered all the prepared information. Is there any question or any discussions? Let me pause video recording at this point